what light through yon window breaks. 'Tis the east, and LG's velvet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the boring handsets who are pale and envious with grief, for thou art a design far fairer than they. If the LG Velvet was around when Willie Shakespeare was alive, I truly believe that's how the famed balcony scene would have gone. But it wasn't, so you'll just have to settle for a Tshaka soliloquy extolling the many virtues of LG's Velvet. A mid-range 5G phone that's big on utility and usability. Oh, Kalu Kalei. Hey, if any of these videos here have helped you, please consider hitting us with that thumbs up, that subscribe, and click the bell so you get notifications whenever we drop new content. LG's V60 5G is among my favorite flagship phones in 2020. I think it really deserves more shine than it has received, but for many, it's the price point which may keep them from reaching for its large format, dual screen deliciousness. Well, LG has smoothed that concern over for you with the less expensive, but no less fantastic Velvet 5G. You can cuddle up to all this velvety goodness for $200 less at $600. Now, the V60 is a beast of a machine, so what do you get for the discount? Well, you're gonna deal with some sacrifices which are gonna be imperceptible to the average user, in my humble opinion. LG employed a few cost-saving measures to bring the price of the Velvet down, and one of them was by going with Qualcomm's Snapdragon 765 processor instead of the top-of-the-line 865 processor, but both support 5G. But what does that actually mean for you? In the scheme of day-to-day use, not a whole lot. While it's slower on paper, I haven't noticed a significant decrease in speed in average use. This phone is fast enough, equipped with 6 gigabytes of RAM compared with 8 gigabytes on the V60. Both screens are 6.8 inches, 2460 by 1080 with a density of 395 pixels per inch. You're going to get a smaller battery here at 4,300 milliamp hours compared to the massive 5,000 on the V60, but with quick charging, which got me to 45% in just 30 minutes, I don't think you'll miss that 700 milliamp hours too much. By the way, the Velvet also supports wireless charging. Battery life is still outstanding as I benchmarked the phone at 9 hours screen on time for 13 hours off the charger with 4% battery life left. If you're a heavy caller, that's probably the place you'll most feel the loss of those 700 milliamp hours of capacity. In which case, go ahead and go on over to my COVID survival guide where I show you several options for excellent battery banks to extend your talk time. We'll link to that above and in the description below. The fingerprint sensor is as good as it's always been on these devices. Once you get used to where you hit the sensor, you'll have an easy time of it. As you familiarize yourself, do expect some misses. You're gonna get, as my pal Juan Bagnell over at Some Gadget Guy would say, less megapixels on the Velvet, but the camera is no slouch. In ideal conditions, it captures solid images and even keeps some detail in my red flower shot. At brunch, the phone captured sharp details in its 48 megapixel mode and at 16 megapixels. The macro photos were serviceable, and one thing to note in terms of compromises is that you actually get a bumped up 16 megapixel front-facing shooter as opposed to the 10 megapixel shooter on the V60. And while that sounds good, the pixels on the sensor were actually larger on the V60, so I had to test the low light capabilities of the front-facing camera on the Velvet. Larger pixels equals more light captured. That said, the low light images from the front camera aren't bad at all. This is early morning in relative darkness in a dark hallway, and this is me at night with ambient light. As for the low light pictures captured with those rear cameras with night mode, this dog park picture tells the tale, pun intended. Here's what that area looked like with night mode turned off. Not a lot of detail, mostly just large, blobby, dark areas. And again, here it is with night mode, bringing light to the darkness. One last note on the cameras here. You get LG's new raindrop design where the main camera barely sticks out of the back while the other two sit flush with the phone. Two things. One, it is aesthetically pleasing and preferable to the large camera modules you'll see on competing phones. And two, I generally actually don't even complain about camera modules being unwieldy because the vast majority of users will be placing their phones in a case anyway. So there's that. Along the bottom of the phone, you'll find a USB-C port, one of the phone's microphones, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and half of the stereo pair of speakers. There's no digital to analog converter on this phone, but the audio directly from the speakers themselves is nothing to sneeze at. LG's 3D AI audio engine is brilliant when it comes to movie content. It really does provide an immersive experience with content like The Witcher. The sound coming from both speakers is tuned well enough that the nuances in the banquet hall are all there. Room echo, spatial imaging, that audio mixing process which makes people across the room sound like they're actually across the room. The nuances in the Urbance trailer, all the sounds are audible. But we'll stop there. When it comes to listening to actual music, I turn off the 3D engine, which you can do right from the shortcuts in the notification shade. With it on, music sounds like it has an artificially stilted amount of reverb. I listened to Esperanza Spalding, Thundercat, and Zap Mama, which all sounded very good on these small speakers without needing any enhancements. The bass was a bit more hollow on these speakers than more expensive handsets, but I actually liked the sound from these more than the much pricier iPhone 11 Max. Being an anime and robot mech nerd, these LG phones, for me, are much akin to my favorite Transformer, that dare do of dastardly Decepticon devilishness, Soundwave.
Cries and screams on music to my ears.
He was a master spy with the Condor and Panther cassettes, and he was a master of communication himself, transforming into a boombox. His usefulness and utility to Megatron and their cause were not to be ignored. In similar fashion, the LG Velvet, a single-screen phone, can transform with some tricks which expand its utility and usefulness. Just like the V60, the Velvet supports the dual-screen accessory, which I found to be a very functional multitasking add-on. And for those of you who appreciate pen input, you'll also get active pen support. Here I have the somewhat pricey Wacom Bamboo Ink Plus. This phone can actually do quite a bit of what Samsung's Galaxy Note can, which I think we'll have to pit head to head in a future video. You actually get some pretty cool functionality out of the pen input features on the Velvet, much like you do with the V60. My favorites are the screenshot tools, which allow you to do the normal things like markup screen grabs and more advanced activities like turning anything playing on your phone into an animated GIF, like I did here with our buddy Craig. Screen Memo is a great feature for me as well, and I can see it working well for anyone who works with multimedia or is in the creative industry. It allows you to watch a video and write notes over it at the same time. From a content creator standpoint, or someone who's just really active on social media, the added functionality is a welcome addition. I may have to do a tips and tricks video just on these features alone. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd like to see. And what about that dual screen? Multitasking, it's pretty awesome as well. This time though, the dual screen accessory is, I think, an upgrade over the V60. No, you don't get a larger display window for that outer cover display, but what you do get is a solid color front instead of the fingerprinted smudge magnet that was this mirror finish, glossy black front cover on the V60. That said, instead of a soft touch material on the back of the case of the dual screen accessory, this time it's more slick, so you get a little less grip. In terms of functionality, it's all there for the most part. You're going to get notifications on the 2.1-inch monochrome outer display. You will get that magnetic dongle that allows you to charge the device while in the case, and the magnet on this one is really strong. So you'll also have a case which protects the front and the back of the phone. Software-wise, you'll have a quirk and some upgrades. With the V60, when the phone is locked and you flip the screen open, both sides activate and you see your wallpaper, your chosen wallpapers on both screens while the phone is still locked. With the Velvet, both screens do come to life. They become active when opening the displays, but your wallpaper shows only on the main screen until you unlock. Maybe this is where that difference in RAM comes in, or maybe it's just a software update issue. We'll see. One new feature I like is the ability to pair apps to launch simultaneously using the multi-app feature. In a folder placed on the home screen of the second screen, LG has already paired a couple apps for examples of the multi-app launch shortcuts for you. When you go into the multi-app shortcut settings menu, any further multi-app shortcuts you create will be placed on the home screen. Aside from that, the features I've shown you in previous videos, they're all there. Working in tandem with your camera app so that you can see shots you've just taken, using the second screen as a video game controller, and the ability to view apps across both screens despite still dealing with the hinge being in the middle of your content. It's all there. One quirk I found with the case is that with it on, wireless charging worked with only 2 of the 3 wireless chargers I have on hand. 2 were charging pads where I laid the phone down on the charger, and 1 is a charging stand. I believe it was the design of the charging stand which kept it from working because the phone recognized it was on a wireless charging stand. The little light came on initially and it began charging, but then it lost the connection after a few moments. All 3 wireless chargers were from different brands. So, $600 for a 5G phone which does so much. Is it worth it? Now, in a future review, I'll be taking a look at 2 other phones in this price point, which are also 5G devices, so you can decide which will work best for you. If near flagship specs and 5G are your raspberry jam, this may just be the phone for you. But we'll see after I kind of walk you through the other 2. And you look at all 3. You can see how that goes there. If you're considering this phone, or even if you're going to wait till I pit this against 2 others, if you're also considering rate plans, please do check out reviews.org, the site. They've done the research, put in the time for you to mull through and figure out which service providers currently have the best plan for your needs. As always, if you have any comments, anything I did not touch on in this review, leave it in the comments section below. I love interacting with you guys. You're actually a great bunch. Thank you for that. The internet can be an unfriendly place sometimes. I'm Tshaka Armstrong for reviews.org. I appreciate you. See you in the next video.